I'd love to kind of talk to you now at this point and, what you still love most about this character and being a part of this show.
I love Elsbeth's curiosity and her wonder and her positive attitude. It takes discipline to approach the world that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's infectious. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love getting inside of that mindset every day because it really helps me in my life. There's that curiosity, that sense of not wanting to give up, tenacity. All those things are something that, I don't take for granted, in the character or in myself. And she really pushes me, I think, to be a better person.
I often kind of see the word quirky, with her. Is that something you embrace? Do you think she's
Oh,
quirky?
I don't mind anyone calling her that, but
Yeah,
that can be a little bit of a simplification of her,
totally. Right.
uh, especially now that we've gotten to be in her world on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
For now 30 episodes. She's deepened. We've made her more three-dimensional. And so she's more than just that. It was easy, I think, to call her quirky in The Good Wife and The Good Fight. And I think it's now we've got more dimensions than that. Well, when you're a guest, you're really trying to honor and serve the story and the show that you've come on to. And I loved doing that. And I was, very happy to be there. And every time they called, and every time I showed up, I treated it like it was going to be the last time because of course it could have been,
Mm-hmm.
even when we shot the pilot for Elsbeth,
Mm-hmm.
when we finished, I was like, this could be the last time, let's have a
Right.
proper goodbye, because you don't
Yeah.
know who's going to get picked up. Which I think is actually a good way to just live life. If this is the only day we have,
Right.
because life is short, starting off that way as a guest and then, being trusted with more storylines as those years went on was wonderful. But like I said, once we got to her being in the center of her own world and a show that was built around her character, I really wanted to, make sure that it stayed grounded the whole time and that, um, like I said, we kept finding new things about her so that the audience doesn't assume something about her. We have amazing writers and they, just when the audience thinks, oh, this is just going to be a structure where we see the murder at the beginning and we know who the murderer is, and then Elsbeth catches the murderer, then we'll throw something in that changes
Right.
that up.
Right. Right.
And so
That's,
I
yeah.
keep trying to do that on a daily basis with the character.
Speaking of guest starring and guest stars, you guys have had so many amazing people join the show as a guest star. Have you had someone that just cracked you up or you broke character or really stood out to you out of all the people?
I mean, I can't name one that hasn't been amazing.
Yeah.
So that and everybody brought their own particular genius to the show and really helped me just be on top of my material, on top of my game, challenging me, making me better. It's so great to have partners that you can play jazz with like that. It was a couple of times where, some of my idols were on the show.
Right.
Laura Metcalf, Pamela Adlon, Tracy Ullman. I mean, these are actors that I want to be like, and I am inspired by. And to have them come on the show was really extraordinary.
Was there a scene you filmed that is kind of cemented in your brain? You'll never forget it either because it was so funny or it was emotional or it was chaotic or it was unexpected.
Playing fencing with Matthew Broderick. I mean, just the physical side of that. I love to do physical comedy and physical work. And to find the physicality in the character, and, to have that happening while we're doing dialogue with these fencing on, wearing full-on fencing costumes that were regulation, and making it, somehow work. And it was, we had to practice a lot. We did have great stunt doubles working with us, and all of that, so that helped. But then I think about Tracy Ullman coming on and playing a psychic, and I did this scene with her where she reads that Elsbeth had a grandmother who really believed in her. Just looking in Tracy Ullman's eyes, Tracy Ullman, who I worship. One of my best friends was also in that episode. We brought a book that we've had since the 90s. Tracy takes on, and we had her sign it. So, to look in her eyes and have her tell me about my it was like the lines between me and Elsbeth were just gone, because all I had to do was look in Tracy's eyes. The actor Carrie was totally in awe, but then her talking about the Elsbeth's grandmother makes me think about my grandmother's, and all of that. When those lines get blurred like that, and you can really just connect into what's happening in the moment, those are the moments that you never forget.
Has playing this role kind of helped you or taught you to become more perceptive? Or do you notice things now that you maybe wouldn't have noticed before playing here, just when you're out and about in the real world?
You know what I do notice more? It's New York City. Because I've lived here since, 1990. So that's 35 years. When I first moved here, sure, I looked up and took in the city. But then after you lived here for a while, it's just where you live. But Elsbeth is so enchanted by New York and inspired by all the little things and the people. And she's so friendly with everyone. And it really has made me be that way more, to look up and look over and appreciate the architecture, appreciate what someone is wearing, and then tell them that, or, you know what I mean? Just get to know the whoever I'm ordering a coffee from or something like that. What's your name? And things that Elsbeth would do. I find myself definitely doing more.
Yeah, I love that about her. Is there a role, or is it this role that people in New York most come up to talk to you about, or what do they kind of say when they recognize you?
Yeah, most of the time it's Elsbeth, although I still get True Blood fans, because people keep rediscovering that series. I'm just so touched at how there's such a love for the show, and it's like a really glowing response when people come up, and it's very funny as like art and life. The people in life also have a hard time remembering how to say her name. So a lot of times they're like, "Are you Lisbeth? Are you Lisbeth?" And I'll say, "I'm Elsbeth." "Yes, I'm Elsbeth." "Right. Elsbeth." Like they say it, and we have this running gag on the show that people can't say the name, and so it's just pretty perfect. But for the most part, or our show has a very big demographic. So proud. There's like people who come up and with their kids, and then there's the LGBTQ community, people who are like over the age of 70. Everybody likes to tell me that their mom loves the show, so it's like everybody. And that makes me feel like we're doing a good job, because we've got something for everyone in there.
And then for, readers that don't know, can you kind of tell me the backstory of her name and what you love most about it? It's so different.
I know. I've been playing this character for 15 years and started in Good Wife. And it was funny because her name in the script that I got, the very first script I got, her name was Elsbeth, always Elsbeth, but her last name was Mann, Mann. On the first day of shooting, they came up to me and said, we couldn't clear that name with legal, because it's all about clearing names and stuff.
Of course.
Okay, so your name now is going to be Elsbeth. And then it was something like Corsiglieri or something. It was an Italian sounding name, but it wasn't Cassioni. It was something like that. And so we started rehearsing, and then they came up and they said, we can't clear that one either.
Oh my God.
So now it's going to be Elsbeth Tassioni. And okay. And that's like a name that's not easy to remember. And so first take out of the gate, I'm supposed to come up. They're supposed to say, who are you? And I say, I'm supposed to say, I'm Elsbeth. And I couldn't remember her last name. So I said, I'm Elsbeth Spaghetti.
Yeah.
And everyone laughed. They were like, it's Tassioni. So I had to just like drill it into my brain.
Gosh, yeah.
Now it's this, running gag. And then we find out in season 2 of Elsbeth that her maiden name is Godmundsdottir, which is the same last name of Bjork, the singer Bjork.
Oh my.
So it's like an Icelandic last name. So it just makes her even more interesting with even more interesting background.
Yeah.
Tassioni was her husband's last name. Godmundsdottir is Icelandic. So it just speaks to just how singular this person is. And that's what I love.
And how do you, whether it's television or film, kind of how do you go about choosing the projects that you want to do?
I mean, a lot of it is, I need a job.
Yeah.
But I am careful to make sure that I say yes to something that I feel like I can bring something interesting, grounded and true to the role. I get offers, but a lot of times I still audition, and I don't mind because I like it that the director and the producers and the writers, et cetera, know what it is that they're choosing. Like they know, okay, this is this is what she's going to try to do with this role. It's getting on set and them going, oh no, that's not what we wanted at all, because that's like high pressure,
Right.
They want to really like do a quick turnaround, and I like it when everybody's sort of on the same page. That said, auditioning is its own set of, challenges, and it can be a bummer. So when somebody does come to me with an offer, I always want to make sure I like get on the phone with the people and make sure that, I'm on the same page, because I want to serve their vision.
And besides Elsbeth, has there been a favorite character that you've played?
I would say probably Polly on Claws. That role was just really fun because she was an identity thief, but she stole people's personalities as well as their, credit cards. So I was able to basically play like 20 roles in one. And so got to really play with my, sense of versatility, and really they gave me such creative freedom on that show. And I really appreciated that. And, I like to think of myself as, somebody who can be a bit of a chameleon. That's what I've always loved since I was a kid when I started acting was, playing the characters.
Yeah.
I always think it's a compliment when people say that what we usually call character actors are actually illusionists. I love that because our jobs playing these. I think everybody's a character actor. Even the leads are characters. You're playing a character, but you know what I mean when I say character actor. When someone says that you're an illusionist, it means that they don't think about you. They're just spending time with the character. And I love that.
Who, kind of in recent years have you worked with that's really inspired you, or you've taken, you've learned lessons from you didn't expect?
I mean, a lot of people, honestly, on the show that have come on, like, for example, back to Tracy Ullman, she was so lovely and gracious and collaborative, but she also came in with a lot of incredible ideas and details. Physically, she had a lace front wig. She had brown contact lenses because she wanted the character to have deep, soulful eyes, because she came in with fake teeth. Like things like that, just thinking beyond, putting yourself in the hands of the designers on the show.
Right.
Come with like, well, I have this bag of tricks. What do you think of this?
That's cool. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm maybe not as brave, or I feel like I should just, I'm deferential to the design team already in place. That inspired me to think differently. I mean, I've come in with little things before, but
Yeah.
that
How much input do you kind of have in the costume and the look of it? Because she does have a very eccentric style.
yes, yes, yes. Well, we have a brilliant costume designer,
Yeah.
Dan. Son. He's been designing the character since day one and the show, all the good universe shows.
Yeah.
So, I just put myself in his hands. Of course, he wants my input always, but what he's going to come up with, what he's going to bring to me, is going to far surpass anything that I could have dreamt of. He's just got such a brilliant eye, and he understands the character, and he knows how far to go, when to pull back, what clothes go right with the scene, each in collaboration with the other characters and what they're wearing, and all those things that he's thinking about are so holistic and brilliant that I just stand there and let him give me the character.
Right, right. Is there another show or series you think it would be so fun for her to pop up in?
We've sort of joked around some about, Elsbeth, is originally a lawyer.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see her in the Matlock world,
Yeah, I didn't even think of, I was starting to think too, and I didn't think of Matlock. That's a good idea. Yeah.
and to see her in that, maybe as a consultant, or maybe there's some kind of crime that happens that they need, a lawyer who's also a detective, or somehow she stumbles into a crime there or something like that. It could be a really fun little crossover episode.
Do you kind of have time to, watch other shows, or what do you do when you need a little escapism from work?
Yeah, I do. I love television. I love being a part of television, and I've always loved watching television. So I follow a lot of shows. Obviously the ones that most people follow, or a lot of people follow: Last of Us, Handmaid's Tale, White Lotus, etc. I'm just finishing Bad Monkey.
Mm.
I like I like crime shows.
Yeah.
And I like comedies too. I love Shrinking. Yeah, so I don't watch a lot of reality. I really like to watch scripted shows. I
Really?
like to, see the artists and
Yeah.
put myself in the hands of great writing and great acting.
What would you love to see next happen for your character?
I never would have even thought to see her as a mom. I mean, I didn't even remember that she had a son, really, barely, because we mentioned her in Good Wife, and then never mentioned him in Good Wife, and never again.
Right.
And so I put myself in the hands of the writers. I don't like to come up with things that I wish, because then that takes me away from what I have, or what is given to me to try. I do think and hope that the ramifications of the assassination of Judge Crawford will carry over into season 3, because I thought we found some really interesting, darker places to go in the show that I think were good for the show, and made it just deeper. So I hope that we'll continue to do that, while of course still honoring the levity that we bring.